Good evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the town board meeting for Wednesday. Not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. August 3rd, 2022. My whole week's messed up now. If everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could just bow our heads in a moment of prayer and silence. We give thanks for the opportunity to gather today to deliberate on important matters before the town. We give thanks to live in a nation that allows us to gather in this fashion. We give thanks for all of our first responders who are serving valiantly here in the town of Yorktown, especially our police officers, our firefighters, and our EMTs. We give thanks for the men and women, of the bravest men and women the world knows, those protecting our freedoms, serving in the United States military, whether overseas or here at home. Tonight we say, we keep in our thoughts and prayers Congresswoman Jackie Walorski, who was killed tragically in a car accident in Indiana. We keep her and her family in our prayers, as well as her district and her state tonight. We also keep in our thoughts and prayers Jenny Menton Grasso, and wish her a speedy recovery from a fall she took just last week. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay, we'll do introductions. We'll start with those who are here physically, and then we'll go to those who are here virtually.
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Matt Slater, Town Supervisor.
Councilman Ed Lachterman.
Luciana Howitt, Councilwoman.
And our virtual board members tonight.
Tom Diana, Councilman Deputy Supervisor.
Sergio Esposito, Councilman.
Very good. Well, let's begin with reports to the town. I want to thank and congratulate the Yorktown Police Department for a wonderful event last night, our second national night out. This event doubled in size, moving it from Granite Knolls to Veterans Field. A great job by Chief Noble, his command staff, and all of our officers who were in attendance. Great night celebrating the best police department that we can find, and we really appreciate their continued service here in the town of Yorktown. I also want to thank, of course, the staff of our Parks and Rec Department, as well as our building maintenance staff who were there throughout the entire event. They were also stayed past the event to clean up the field and make sure that it was in a suitable condition, so thank you to all of them as well. I'm happy to report that the John C. Hart Memorial Library is closing in on a rather lengthy process to become a passport processing center. Their final inspection is expected to be this month from the Department of State. And so this is just a great, again, Yvonne Check, our library director, doing great things over in John C. Hart Memorial Library. Great vision to bring this service right here to the town of Yorktown, and another great use for our library. So she'll be back here with us once we get the final word. But this is just, again, we're just inches away from crossing the goal line on this process. Yvonne also has reported that the patron numbers for the John C. Hart Memorial Library continue to climb significantly. And that's in large part to all the new programming that they've brought, especially for the youth of our community. Speaking of which, this Saturday, August 6th, the Birds of Prey with T-Town Lake Preservation will be there from 10:30 to 11:30. Again, that's up at the John C. Hart Memorial Library. So if you haven't had an experience yet with the Birds of Prey from T-Town, it's a great presentation for the kids of Yorktown. Our building maintenance department reports that the boiler at the Yorktown Police Department was replaced this week. The new boiler over at the AACCC is expected to be replaced later this month. The oil tank, and Councilman Diana is going to speak more about this, but the oil tank that was sitting outside of Town Hall for the last 8 months has now been removed, and so we're very happy to see that space once again. And again, Councilman Diana will update us on that project. Our Parks and Rec Department, we want to thank Stella Landy Lopez, who just finished her 20th year running the town of Yorktown camps. They did a great job, from Stella to the youth, to the counselors, to the campers. Everyone had a great month of July. whether it was half day, full day. Just a great program that Stella continues to manage. Again, this being her 20th year here in the town of Yorktown. We thank her for her service. As a reminder also for you parents, if you're looking for something more for your kids to do this summer, we still have the week-long mini camps. So you can visit the Parks and Rec website, or you can pick up one of our brochures, which is out in the hallway, to see which ones are available and how to sign up. Since we are in August and it's hot, the pools are still open. Our senior swim has been added to the junior lake pool. So you can go Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 12 as a senior. And as I said earlier, since we're talking about seniors, we said we are keeping Jenny Menton in our thoughts, but I think she'd be appreciative of the fact that our seniors are getting another benefit here in the town of Yorktown. Jenny being a very active member of the Senior Advisory Committee. And again, keeping her and Tony in our thoughts tonight. NYSEG, and I think I've alluded to this in previous reports to the town, has put in a rate increase to the Public Service Commission. They are looking for anywhere from a 13 to 22% increase, which would equate to a $10 to $18 a month increase in your monthly utility bills. Earlier in this week, I signed a letter with Assemblyman Byrne, and we are requesting that the PSC once again hold a hearing here in Yorktown, which is what they did a few years back. And so we are expecting them to announce the public hearing schedule, which is a required part of their process, and again advocating for the town of Yorktown and the lower Hudson Valley to be able to have our voices heard on the impact of that type of rate increase. So again, Con Ed and NYSEG both we dealt with Con Ed earlier in the year with their rate increase as well, and this is for NYSEG. Again, Yorktown being one of only two municipalities, only Bedford in Westchester, that has their town split by utilities. So we do have that, one of those great distinctions here in Yorktown. I left the plaque upstairs, but tomorrow we'll be announcing the Climate Smart Community certification. We are being recognized by the state of New York. This is a tremendous achievement for our community, something that we set out to do in 2020, forming the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. Just great work that they have undertaken, and I really want to thank them all for their hard work, especially Kira Brunner, who's been one of the real leaders keeping us organized and moving. But just to give you an idea of some of the things that they've been able to accomplish. They did a government operations greenhouse gas inventory. They did a community greenhouse gas inventory. Thank you to Bob DeAngelis, our Excel wizard. We've upgraded our interior lights. We've passed an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. We've initiated, thanks to Sarah Wilson, our repair cafes, the community repair programs that continue. We've introduced residential organic waste program through the Food Waste Recycling Center. We've adopted smart growth policies, a unified solar permit. We've instituted policies for local food systems. We all know about the infrastructure for biking and walking that we have and that we're continuing to work on. We've have a local forestry program. We approved a climate resilient hazard mitigation plan, another thing that we were able to get done. So there's just so much and these are just a few of the things that we were able to do to earn this recognition by the state. Very, very proud of what they've been able to accomplish, this great task force. And it's something that we're looking forward to being able to hold up the plaque tomorrow with the president of the New York League of Conservation Voters and some of our state officials. So it's an exciting day tomorrow. And last but not least, my assistant supervisor, Riley Manning Burns. What a kid. Just awesome. Love this kid. He was with us Friday. We unveiled our Be a Superhero, Not a Bully banners campaign. So if you go over to Veterans Field, if you go up to Granite Knolls, if you go to Shrub Oak, if you go to Downing Park, you'll see these new banners. Again, reminding everyone, as Riley says, be a superhero, not a bully. Just a reminder for anyone using these playgrounds, especially Granite Knolls, which I remind you all again is an all-inclusive playground for kids of all abilities to go spend time together, learn from each other, and as Councilwoman Luciana Howard says, make great memories. So Riley doing a great job. We were hoping that he was going to be here tonight, but he's been fighting a cold, and we wish him and his moms and his brothers all the best. He's been doing a great job for us here in the town of Yorktown. And that concludes my report to the town. I'll turn it over to Councilman Lachman.
Yes. Actually, a much better job than our current supervisor, I think.
Yes, he
That
does.
last time I saw Riley. Not a lot going on. Hope everyone's enjoying the summer. Great time yesterday with our PD and their national night out. Just a reminder, the Yorktown Lions are halfway through their summer concert series. The next concert is this Sunday, August 7th, and they will have a Billy Joel tribute band, Danny V's 52nd Street. Then the remaining two concerts, they will have one on the 21st with Tramps Like Us, a Bruce Springsteen tribute band, and on the 28th, they'll have their military tribute concert starting an hour earlier at 5 p.m. With Alyssa Martin starting off the show. And then our main act will be Class Action. So a lot of people know the band. They do some great cover hits from the 70s and 80s. And we'll have different military groups there, and it should be a really good time. So please, come down, support the Lions, enjoy the music, and see what they give back to the community. That's it.
Very good. Councilwoman Howitt.
I just want to say happy August. I do want to encourage everyone to go on to our yorktown.org. There are so many wonderful events that are listed there that maybe we have not let you know about. I am really excited that the Garden Club has reached out to me discussing what's going on at Hilltop Hanover and all the young farmers and farm-to-table events that are taking place on the 3rd and the 4th. So please look at yorktown.org. There's never a dull moment here in Yorktown. There's lots of exciting stuff. And if we haven't mentioned any events, they will be listed there.
Very good. Do we have our virtual members? No. Can we put them on, turn them around and put the mic up to them so that they can talk?
Yes, absolutely.
Councilman Diana, would you like to provide the report to the town?
Sure. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight with you folks. I was in close proximity to somebody who had COVID, and I would rather err in the way of safety so that I wouldn't give my board members or anybody in the public anything. If I should have it, right now I'm asymptomatic, and I hope to stay that way. I also want to thank the chief for that great national night out. It was nice to see all the guys and gals from the PD and all the people that turned out to have a good time and meet our fine cops and see some of our equipment and our canines and so forth. It was really a good night, and I think a good time was had by all. I want to thank our library and board. I'll tell you, you don't realize the work and the real devotion that board puts into what goes on at that library. I actually got to meet the llama the other night, not the Dalai, but the llama that was there giving, being petted by the kids and all that kind of stuff. There's just one of many things. They're having, I believe you said, Matt, Birds of Prey next week.
Yep. This weekend, August 6th.
This weekend, I'm sorry. We're going to be planting a holiday tree there. So we're going to be having tree lighting also at the library this year for all denominations. Whoever would like to attend. They're actually going to have an ornament. This is in the infancy stages at this point, but they're actually going to have an ornament making table at these little tree lighting for the kids to come and hang their handmade ornaments on the tree before the lighting, and the rest will be announced later on in the year on what we're going to do. But right now, it looks like the library is going to be taking the lead on the community event other than the lighting. So it should be fun. There were some members of the community who had expressed an interest in this. I ran with it a little bit, and there's also some of the businesses want to contribute and or possibly purchase the tree for planting. We're looking at a Colorado blue spruce, I believe. I'm going to check with our arborists and our tree committee to see if that's the proper one to put there. We don't want one that's going to grow 100 feet tall and just have to be chopped down. We want something that's going to go somewhere between 20 and 40 feet tall, and that's it. So that's one great thing that
our library is going to be doing for us. One of the great things our library is going to be doing for us.
You just sent it?
Let's see. It's a great day. I'm going to miss the white tank sitting outside. What about you, Glenn? I think it, kind of be. We were thinking about decorating that for the holidays.
Send it as a calendar?
But we've had a new 500-gallon tank installed around the side of the building. It's kind of hidden by the generator that's there. It was piped in and piped into the boiler room, and is connected to one of the boilers now, should it be needed. I don't think we're going to need it in the near future, but there are going to be a boiler replacement, and then the new hybrid system for the area where that was operated by steam. So they're going to be what they call mini split units, which are heat pumps and air conditioning all in one. So basically, it's the center core of Town Hall that will be heat and cooling regulated by those particular units. And as you see in the agenda, once we get down a little bit, it's Purple Heart Day on the 7th, but tomorrow is also the Coast Guard birthday. And so we can kind of celebrate both on this town board meeting. That's all I have, folks. Hope everybody's having a great summer. Stay cool if you can.
Councilman Esposito, report to the town.
Yep, sorry I'm not there in person, but Ed, I will be at the concert series on Sunday. They're always a great time, and last time we were there, they had the EV car show, which was very interesting, so it's a great combination. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. I definitely will be back in person next week for next week's meeting. I'm hoping everybody's having a great summer. That's all I have.
Great. With that, we will go to John McMullen, our Poet Laureate. John.
Here you go, John.
Glad to see you're back, John.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be back. When you asked me what was wrong with me, I said I'd give you the whole story at this time. So this may make some people a tad squeamish.
Okay. Ready.
I did it between. I wrote this about 2 weeks ago in between 2 procedures that I had. Stones.
Oof.
Dedicated to Dr. Sheldon Axelrod.
He got me.
When we heard the expression, he's got stones in the old neighborhood, we took it to be a less profane, he's got balls, or less proper, he's got nerve. Jacob and Richards had stones. I was recently exposed to a more accurate use of the term when I was diagnosed with stones, kidney and bladder. Not fun. Kidney stones once required going into a particularly sensitive area of the male anatomy to blast and be passed. But the good news, this is no longer necessary, as improved medical technology has provided the way to blast them from outside the body. The bad news, that's not the procedure for bladder stones. First, the urologist, a very pleasant and professional fellow, at a visit inserted a video camera, a very tiny one, into the sensitive organ, and I watched in trance on a big monitor as we explored the innards of my kidneys and bladders. This fantastic video tour took away from the discomfort of the inserted device. Not so for the actual removal of the bladder stones. While the procedure is done under general anesthesia, it is disconcerting and somewhat painful to wake up with a catheter inserted in the aforementioned organ and attached to a plastic bag. Ugly and awful. The next day, the device comes off with the instruction: drink plenty of water to flush out the fragments of the stones. Nice message, but didn't say when your body wants to flush them out, you'll get a very sharp pain and have to run, not walk, to the nearest bathroom. The kidney stone removed in a week and a half, and I had this procedure before and does not have a catheter. I do not intend to have one this time either. If in the future I ever have to make a choice between a catheter and euthanasia, I'll have to think very hard about it.
Is the title that John bears it all?
What?
I know.
Is the title of your piece John bears it all?
Stones, yeah, right.
I feel like you just bared it all, John.
It's not a big deal. The actual kidney stone, get the pictures from your urologist.
All right, we're going to go over to proclamations, and we're going to give it to Councilman Lachterman.
All right. As Councilman Diana pointed out, August 7th is also National Purple Heart Day. So we have a proclamation. Whereas the Purple Heart Medal is awarded in the name of the President of the United States to members of the armed forces who are wounded or killed in action. And whereas the Purple Heart Medal was first created by General George Washington and remains in the oldest military decoration in the world in present use, and whereas the Purple Heart Medal was discontinued after the Revolutionary War but reinstated by the U.S. War Department on February 22, 1932, the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birthday, and whereas nearly 2 million American soldiers who have been wounded in battle or killed in action have received this prestigious recognition for their bravery and valor, and whereas it is fitting and proper to take time to remember those heroes who fought for and protected our freedoms both at home and abroad, and whereas on August 6, 2013, the town of Yorktown declared itself a Purple Heart town through a resolution as recommended by the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 21, and whereas the freedom we cherish comes at a price paid by the brave soldiers who stand watch every single day, now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Yorktown recognizes August 7th, 2022 as National Purple Heart Day, and be it further resolved that the town of Yorktown recognizes our residents who are recipients of the prestigious Purple Heart Award and thank them for their service, and be it further resolved that the town of Yorktown recommits itself as a Purple Heart town.
Well done. Make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilman Esposito. Looks like we lost Councilman Diana. He just said that he lost internet, but I know he supports the measure as well. And to all of our heroes here in Yorktown, Purple Heart recipients, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. I think of people like Eugene Lang. I think of people like Brian Sillick. Just two off the top of my head who were so active in our community, but who gave so much to protect our community.
Right. And you know what? Let's not forget all who have served. Some of the wounds that have returned from battle are not eligible for the Purple Heart, but they scar just as deep, and we keep all of our military and those who served in our prayers, and really thank them for everything.
Absolutely. Okay, we will go to our presentation. Heidi Borneman, Garden of Hope. Did you give me a video, or did you?
I sent everything to.
You want to send it?
I gave it to Sergio, so bring it up in case something.
Okay, so Serge, you got the video? Are you able to? Can you share your screen? Yep.
Is it?
Yeah. There it is. Always love those sunflowers.
When I switch to the next slide, so just be patient.
Okay, first I'd like to say thank you for having me on this last minute thing. I decided this morning that I really have to do something about the lack of volunteers that we're getting. So I just wanted to reintroduce the Garden of Hope to all of you. Not you, you all know, but our people who are watching really don't know who we are and what we do. So next, please. Yeah. So we're located at the northern end of Willow Park. It used to be just swampland, and years ago when I first moved to the neighborhood, it was never even mowed because it was just wet all the time. It was underwater. It's just recently that they're taking care, like the Parks and Rec are really taking care of it. Plus, we're lucky that we're having such dry, not for the garden, but for the park, that we're having such dry weather. So yeah, we're located at the end of Willow Park. And next, please. And I'd like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank the town again, the board, for allowing us to have that slice of property, to have the Garden of Hope, and I'll explain to you why it's so important in a second. I'd like to thank the Highway Department for delivering all the materials from the organic
Dump?
Thank you. It's such a negative word, right? The
No, organic yard.
or
Oh, yard.
Yard. Dave would be very offended
I'd like
right
to
now.
thank,
Sorry, Dave.
I'd like to thank the Yorktown Parks and Rec Department for helping us install the elk fencing. And with that being said, I'd like to thank the Elks of Yorktown who provided the funding for. Yes, it's called an elk fence, not a deer fence, because it's
I
I
don't know
don't
how
know
many
why,
elk
but it's
we
called
have
an
in
elk
Yorktown.
fence from the elks. So, and definitely, I don't want to forget Faraway Farm alpacas. They provide the much needed alpaca fertilizer. You know, because every day I use another word that I can't really say here. So the alpaca provides stuff that you can utilize right away. It's not like cow manure where you have to wait 3-4 years for it to process and decompose. Alpaca, and you can look this up, Google it if you want. It can be used right away. So we're able to just fertilize all of our plants. Next, please, Sergio. Thank you. So in this location, it began in June of 2021, and this is kind of what it looked like. Just a couple of rows. This is a couple months in already. So just a couple of rows. Next, please. And right today in the garden, we have basil beets, Brussels sprouts, cantaloupe, celery, chives, collard greens, corn, cucumbers, eggplant, kale, lettuce, peppermint, pole beans, potatoes, radishes, scallions, several varieties of peppers, several varieties of tomatoes, a strawberry patch, sweet peas, which, by the way, they just all ended, so the sweet peas were there, but now they're not anymore. Swiss chard, thyme, yellow squash, watermelon, and zucchini, and we continue to plant more. Next, please. Thank you. Every single thing, except for a few sweet peas, which I ate myself. I'm sorry, I'm there at 5:30 in the morning watering, so, you know, that's my breakfast, right? So every single thing harvested goes to the food pantries in Yorktown, 2 of them. The First Presbyterian Church of Yorktown gets it twice a month, because they only have their food distribution on certain Saturdays. And the Community Food Pantry at St. Mary's in Mohegan Lake, they get it the alternating Fridays. So we harvest on Thursday. Next, please. So far, to date, we have donated over 700 pounds of fresh produce to our food pantries aforementioned. Next, please. And here are a couple pictures. We harvest every single Thursday, unless there is a deluge or a hurricane or tornado warnings. We are out there, not that it's rained, but we are out there harvesting every Thursday. We have a few dedicated workers who come. Next, please. Here are a couple of pictures of the harvest, recent harvest. Next, please. So right now, I'm asking for volunteers, yes, to harvest. Sure, we can ask people to harvest, and that's all well and good, but we have to pretty the place up. So with that being said, we are right now mulching the perimeter of the entire Garden of Hope, and you'll see that picture on the left. It has 4 to 6 inches of wood chips being placed on cardboard as a barrier between, you know, the weeds, so that stops all the weeds from growing. And it goes about 4 or 5 inches under the fence so that the weeds don't grow, because you cannot weed whack this fence. It is plastic. It's not a metal fence. So it's very easily broken if you use a weed whacker. So we're going to have to mulch the entire thing. Next, please. So again, I'm here really a plea. I'm begging, really. We need volunteers to help. Yes, we've had a few people commit, a few groups, Boy Scouts, some families, some Girl Scouts, or like different various groups who committed to rows and then never came back. And so we have a lot of plants that aren't being taken care of, and that we're losing food. There are a couple of rows, and we can't do everything. Right now we have 26 45-foot rows of all those vegetables that I told you about. Strawberry patch, potato beds. The Presbyterian Church has 9 beds, very large beds, that they maintain and take care of religiously. see what I did there? Yeah, and I know you love me.
That joke was like
Come on,
two-thirds,
it was a
two-thirds
dad
of a
joke.
pun to you.
Yeah, we have melons now. We have a lot of new beds, and we're extending now that we have the old fence gone, and now that we have more property to cover. We want to make as much food or grow as much food as we can to provide to the food pantries. But that being said, we need the volunteers to do that. We do have a few dedicated volunteers who are there every single day at sunrise to water the place, because if they don't get watered, they're dead, and we won't have anything, and all that work would be gone. Next, please, Sergio, please. Oh, is that it? So, okay, so the next thing is we have a video from our master gardener, and it's really important because this is the woman who runs 4 or 5 other gardens other than this one, and she spends upwards of 12 hours a day at our garden 3 times a week, and she goes other places as well. So I wanted to thank Janet. She's not from Yorktown. She is from Croton, but she comes all the way over, doesn't get a penny, not a penny. She doesn't ask for anything. The feeling that you get when you work at that garden, I can't even tell you. You find your soul there. You hear the frogs and the birds and you see the little bunny, which is not supposed to be in the garden, but it's outside the fence, and he's it's just the most soulful thing. Yeah, I go to church and I like it and I enjoy it, but this brings you closest to nature and our Creator than you could ever imagine being there and sharing with others. Well, I can't financially support other people, but I can do this. You know, we're not asking for financial help. We're asking for time. We're asking for your time and your muscles, and we'll provide water. I mean, we can do that. But that's what we're asking. So we have Saturdays from 9 to 1. Every single Saturday we work. There's always weeding to be done. There's always planting to be done. There's the mulching to be done. We have a lot of stuff. If you don't want to deal with the plants, you don't have to. We're not asking you. But harvesting is Thursdays from 6ish until dark, and we're losing 2 minutes a day. July 1st, dark was 8:32, and now it's at 8:10. So we're losing time, and we're having more to harvest, but less time to do it in. So we need more volunteers. If we could just show that video real quick, and then you guys can go on with your meeting. And thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Great job. Sergio, you got the video?
I'm going to have a couple of
play it.
questions for you, Heidi, when we're
Okay.
done, so don't run away, please.
Me run away from you?
It's in the slideshow, I'm assuming, right?
Is it in the slideshow?
It was in the second,
The second one?
yeah, because it was too big to send.
Slideshow, because I'm not seeing it.
Let's see if there's a second.
One moment, please. We can ask some questions.
I didn't see it.
Oh, Councilman Diana's back in action.
I'm back.
When I was a kid, I grew up on Belmont Avenue, Arthur Avenue, and we were the Belmont Little Farmers. And
I don't see a
just
second
bunch
one,
of my
Heidi.
friends, and there was like
Only
just
the one that
one
you sent us.
land that there was nothing going on it. And my friend's uncle leased it for
want this?
$1 or something, and he gave us all a little piece of the lot, and we all, harvested food. And I got to tell you, I showed up at my house, and I handed my father tomatoes that I grew. He thought I was like a superhero.
Yes.
We handed Italian guy tomatoes, man. That's it. But it was, and you're right. It was like we were 10 years old, and it was the funnest thing that I think we've ever done.
So, Heidi, while we're waiting for the thing, are you able to give community credit for kids?
Yes, community service is available for National Honor Society, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whoever needs it. We will provide the letter with your name, the hours that you've worked. And if you need more specific items, I will gladly say they mulch for 2 hours, I will gladly do that. I will not add hours to hours that weren't done, though. I don't play that game.
Right. We hope not.
A lot of people do that, and I never liked it when they did it for my kids. So, yeah, it's no good. So,
Okay. And are there? Do you know if there are badges in scouting for
yes.
farming?
Well, I know that my son's very first merit badge in scouting was gardening. Surely enough, he is a plant scientist today. So, yes, there is a correlation between scouting and badges and your future. Diana, thank you for doing that. Okay, we're ready?
He's really mad.
So this is Janet. She is our master gardener. She doesn't like me calling her that. She likes to be called the garden guru.
I have to turn my volume up.
Yeah, that would help.
You wanna turn
And
yours off?
she looks this good all the time. This is after her being in sweltering heat for 11 hours. so I don't know how she does it, but, and I won't even tell you how old she is. She's older than me. I mean,
what
I'm just
happens.
saying, she's
I lost
awesome.
sound. Did you lose sound, Sergio?
Yes, so did I. That's okay. Let them play the video so this way.
Yeah.
We didn't lose sound, guys.
They can't hear you.
I can't hear it. Let's see. Where is the volume on this? Unmute. Okay.
We used to be in another location, but we moved last year. So this. We used to be in another location, but we moved last year.
That
So
didn't
this-
work?
I'll turn up the sound.
No, it come to my computer.
So we were in southern part of Yorktown somewhere, but that church had to sell the property, and so luckily,
We used to be in another location, but we moved last year. So this is a new build. It's 1 year old. Before that, it was just plain old grass on a wetland. And so now we have built it. We have raised bed gardens here with pollinators in here that the Girl Scouts.
I got this one. No, I'm good.
Sunflowers
I'm good.
The beautiful pollinator flowers there, and this is their job to maintain this. Luckily, we got a grant from the Elks Club in Yorktown, and they gave us enough money that we could buy our fencing, and the volunteers and the town did the work. So the town put a hole through the ground with the cement, they did all that hard work, and all of our volunteers put the elk fencing along the poles. And so, with a group community effort, we got 780 feet of elk fencing around here to keep out the deer. We have deer here. So we also had just grass, and we're doing regenerative garden practices. So we got
Some materials from the town, composted leaf mulch, and also chips, all kinds of degraded chips, which we use in the pathways to keep the weeds down. And then over here in the, you'll see the rows, the beds, would be augmented with compost. And we also have a local farmer that has alpaca farm. He gives us all his alpaca compost, which is ideal. There's celery growing in the garden, which we never thought we'd be able to do that. We had a huge harvest. We plant intermittent flowers for the pollinators. We have all kinds of plants in here. All the plants were donated from Graymore and from local people. We have pepper plants, tomato plants. We also, last year, kids made scarecrows for the garden, so we have a scarecrow up here, and each year we're going to get more and more scarecrows. And these 4 beds are taken over by one church, Grace Lutheran. They work really hard. It's 5 beds now. They have 5. Nobody has this one, so if someone wants to come and volunteer, they can take this one. Eva just got this one. She's developing that. This one is not taken either, so if anyone wants to come and volunteer, they can take over this garden and this one. We have quite a few rows that need someone to come, and I can help you start up your garden, and then you just maintain it. And all the food goes to the local food banks. We have 2 local food banks that we supply to. One of them has asked us to sponsor 56 families that have 6+ in their families. Last year was only 28 families. It's 56 now. So we had to expand the garden, widen our beds, get more volunteers. Sarah, she just donated these cucumbers, so we're putting in these cucumbers into the beds right now. So we'll be donating that. We have the Boy Scouts in here. They did a lot of work to build beds. And here you see we have, I think it's 35 yards of composted leaf mulch that we will be bringing into each bed and augmenting all the plants so that they will grow more food. And over here, like I said, one Boy Scout and his father put this grow fence up, built the bed, actually took the soil and built this bed, planted beans, and now we're going to have beans on both sides of this grow fence. And that happened in just a couple hours. I think it was 2.5 hours. They were here. 2 people accomplished that. So we need volunteers to come. I will help, you accomplish it. And we're going to continue to build now. Now that we have a fence all the way out and we have all the materials, we'll bring the materials in, keep building rows of food. We'll have more and more food to donate. And it's very satisfying to do it. There's a lot of need right now, and I hope you can become a part of it. We'd love to have you. Thanks for watching Garden Time with Janet. Bye.
That's Janet. She's a mirror. She is Wonder Woman. She's amazing. And just again, we really desperately need volunteers. If you come once and you don't like it, that's fine. And then you say, okay, thank you very much for the experience. Now I can say I've done it and I'm never going to do that again. But most people, once they're there and they get that feeling, you're hooked. It's just an amazing feeling. Putting a seed in the ground and then feeding a person, it's just amazing. Do you have any questions for me at all? It's in Willow Park on Curry and Tulip. If you go Route 6, Curry, up Curry, it's the stop sign. Make a right.
Right.
There's a little parking area there. Please don't park on the road. Some people drive past and yell at you swear words. It's not very nice.
It's not nice. But this was the idea behind this when we first started it was a community garden, and that's what you've produced. And now it's grown to the point where you need more of the community to help with the need. And the need's great. Luciana Howard, our councilwoman over here, is our liaison to the Food Security Task Force. Mm-hmm. And we hear about the need in our community. And especially with the economy in the direction that it's going, that need only grows, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Last year, I believe you did, a ton of food?
I was not there then.
The number I was told was a ton.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I
About 2,000 pounds of food was donated from this garden to the local food pantries. So it's an incredible resource, but also an incredible source of growth and food for people most in need. And so it's really our responsibility as a community to hear the call and also respond to the call, without a doubt. And it's, while it's unfortunate that we have so many, as you heard in the video from Janet, that your family demand doubled from 26 to 52?
And that's only in
28 to 56.
That's only in one of their churches.
That's only in one pantry. Mm-hmm. So the demand is there, the need is there, and the purpose of the garden originally, with working with Paul Silverman and others, was to provide this opportunity for the community to lift each other up, work for each other. As you said, it's not dollars. We're not talking dollars and cents. We're talking time and muscle. And so something that I think we can all find time to give and help out with. And I know that, again, that Luciana, you're working with the Food Security Task Force, so I don't know if there's anything you want to add about the importance of the garden.
I just wanted to add, just want to take a moment and just thank you for this presentation, and I encourage anyone out there to share this presentation, because the correlation that I also hear is the ability to put down our technology in some form and bring our children out and teach them what hand to dirt really looks like. And I just want to really thank you for that. And I would like to reach out to you, because I do know that there's a lot of parents in need in teaching what hard work and what the results of hard work do. Yeah. And I think the nature and nurture part of this, and also, yes, Matt, the high demand is there. And I hope that we can welcome families to come in and help harvest or help volunteer to make sure that the Garden of Hope does continue to grow, and also feel confident to go to the pantry and receive. I do know that our pantries have leftover vegetables after a certain day, and it's simply because there's so many people that do not feel that they deserve to come there, and I would like to expand that. So please, again, if anyone's watching, please share this with your parents of teenagers and young adults. I mean, this can earn Xbox time. Like, right. I think there needs to be a balance, and I think the joy that I saw on your face definitely has a huge impact on me.
It's funny that you mentioned put down the electronics, because we did have a group of young people in with their parents last Thursday. While some people were harvesting, they were helping build that perimeter by the flower bed in the front. And not one phone, not a parent, not a kid, not one phone was out. They were all working beautifully together.
Beautiful.
I didn't see one kid, no eyeball rolling, nothing. Right. It was so fun to watch. When the kid comes up to me, can you spray me with the hose? Yes, I can. I've been waiting to do. But we had a lot of fun. But you have a lot of fun, and it is family. Even if we're not related, it's even family. Right. It's just, an incredible feeling you get. And if you can't make it on a Thursday or a Saturday, I'm there in the morning, unless it's rained the night before, and then I'll
don't have to water.
Then I can sleep in. But I will be there. Shoot me an email or whatever. Find me on Facebook. Send me a.
So if they wanted to shoot you an email, what's the email that they should send?
Oh, you could HeidiABT@optonline.net. It's not.
HeidiABT@optonline.net.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
Heidi,
that.
thank you so much for this presentation.
So thank you all.
I think you have a question in the back, so when you leave, you can ask, because we don't take questions from the audience.
Oh, we don't. Okay.
You can go talk outside, and I'm sure you can get your question answered.
It's been a long time. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to stick around because I don't want to go home.
Okay, well, you can hang out.
You're
I
welcome
don't have
to
air
stay.
conditioning at home.
Oh, boy. You're welcome to stay.
Freezing.
Enjoy.
Thanks,
No problem. Thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
We're going to go to personnel. We're going to appoint Barry Ehrenberg as a member of the John C. Hart Memorial Library Board of Trustees. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will go to courtesy of the floor. Courtesy of the floor, as a reminder, there's a 3-minute time limit for courtesy of the floor. You don't have to wait for courtesy of the floor if you have a concern. We say this every week. You can come either to Town Hall, you can meet with myself, or you can meet with the town clerk. All the contact information for myself, the town board, the town clerk, highway superintendent, every department head can be found on the town's website. We are here to serve you. When you do come to the podium, please address your comments to the town board. And again, as always, we ask that those comments remain respectful and courteous. We understand that people can become passionate about issues, but we aren't looking for a personal fight here. This is about solving problems. And so with that being said, I welcome you all to Courtesy of the Floor. We invite our first speaker. When you come up, please just state your name for the record.
Good evening, Jay Kopstein.
Mr. Kopstein, good evening.
Good evening, Jay.
Although I don't attend all board meetings, I do view the video recordings. I offer the following 3 observations. A member or members of the town board usually ask questions of applicants at town board meeting. Unfortunately, the member or members accept the response from the applicant or applicant's representative as a complete answer. It should be noted that the applicant or applicant's representative, while truthful, may not be complete. Often during a work session or regular town board meeting, an applicant or the applicant's representative provides an overview of a proposed project. The board should ask questions and may even voice approval of a concept. However, members of the board should never express approval for a specific project before a public hearing is convened and the public comments are considered. If approval is expressed, then why have a public hearing? If approval is expressed, Then it appeared that the town board member is representing the applicant rather than the town and its citizens. Supervisor Slater has tried, but has not always been successful in curbing the enthusiasm of other board members who express their approval for a specific project before a public hearing is convened or the public's comments considered. Finally, there is one town board member who seems to take pride in interrupting other members when they are speaking. This includes interrupting Supervisor Slater. This is not only unprofessional, but also rude. And since I have a minute left, I'll go for an example. The concept of a hotel in a town is a great concept. And if board members like the idea, express the like. They should, although I'm not a board member, I can express that I like Mr. Arena's proposal. Board members should not comment on liking his proposal until they've heard comments at a public hearing. If a board member turns around and says, I like the proposal, before a public hearing is convened, they are not taking public comments into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kopstein. And is that the clock?
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of screens up here.
Yeah. Tough night.
All right. Next, and as I pointed out and was pointed out to me by the clerk, you have a clock up here to keep you on time. Next
Hi,
speaker.
good evening, Susan Siegel. I have 4 items I'd like some updates on. The first is the status of the fluoridation project. I think it was about 2 weeks ago I brought this up. There are obviously been problems. You said that possibly the town employees could do it. You were also going to see about legal action. Could you tell us what the status is while we're waiting for this? You also mentioned 2 to 4 meetings ago that the task force to discuss the use of the ARP money, what's happening with that. And also, once that committee reports to the town board, will the public have a chance to comment before any final decisions are made, or will it just be the board? Okay. The third issue is I notice on tonight's agenda re-advertising the garbage bid. This is the 3rd time. The first time you only got 1 bid, so you didn't even open that, and you rebid it a second time. Obviously, there were problems with the second bid, so could you kind of let us know what's happening? This is critical, and we kind of know, I think you told us some time ago, we are in for a price raise. I think we know that we have to be prepared. The 4th item is deals with why I'm waiting 2 months to get a copy of the report from the attorney who did the ethics investigation. I put a FOIL in. The FOIL was both for a copy of the report and a copy of the invoice from the lawyer. I got the invoice, and I did check, and the invoice has been paid. But why do I have to wait 2 months to get a copy of a report that's sitting there in somebody's file? Okay, and I've asked it several times, and I know I go through the clerk's office, but I don't know that the copy is in the clerk's office, so I'm not saying it's them. They typically, when I FOIL, they have to get to a department. So I really would like to see that in my inbox in a day or two. I cannot understand why it's not there, but I would like the updates on those 3 other issues. Thank you.
Next.
Hello, Heidi, Jennifer Court. Just a reminder to everyone, please don't feed the wildlife in our parks. As an active person going to Willow Park every day, the geese are getting more aggressive. You can't walk by them now. They're hissing at you. I have no choice but to park where I park, so I have no choice but to walk past the pond. It's a minefield. Good thing I'm wearing my muck boots.
Muck boots.
And but others, like there are families who want to use the park, and they can't because there's goose turds everywhere. It's disgusting, like ew. And the birds are very aggressive. And this just recently started. I just saw a woman yesterday literally throwing, it looked to me like crushed corn, you know, what they feed chickens. And I'm like, no, don't do that. And she just, whatever, let's feed the birds. No. It's not good for them. It's not good for us. Yes, they're adorable, but please don't feed wildlife. Besides, it is against the law. So, yeah, and I'm sick of stepping in it. Really am. So, and I'm sure the kids are too. Have a great day.
Thank you. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Anybody else?
How you doing?
First of all, thank you for being so kind and nice and listening last week. It was really...
Sorry, can you just repeat your
Oh,
name
Anthony
real quick?
Fichette,
Yep.
yes.
Loader,
Everyone
right?
knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just want to appreciate everyone that's being so nice and receptive last week, or last time I was here. Actually didn't think I could make it tonight, but you moved it, obviously, so that was good for me. And I'd like to start off again, like some things that really that were kind of cool that I want to share because I'm new, so I just like to share. But my family, we were at the Shrub Oak pool area, and that was really nice by the lake, and just, I mean, the little one was playing tennis with us, so that's pretty cool. So that was fun. Last night was really enjoyable. Keep going back to the little one, but it was really fun. The DJ was really great, playing some tunes that she was dancing to, so that was fun. And the reason I wanted to come back and speak really was just to ask the question, see what everyone on the board, if you guys would comment, hear what you have to say, because I know when we speak and then we sit down and hear you talk, we're like, oh, what about this? Oh, and I haven't reached out to anyone, so that was on my end too, but I just like saying it in public too. So I know last week you were talking about walkability, and I know it's such a broad thing to say, but I know a couple people on the board where I wouldn't say push back, but sounded like, oh, that's the thing that I'm not really into, or there was some pushback on that. So my question is just as broad as that. If you could talk about what kind of pushback there is in the town about like opening, maybe saving places for people to walk, or just is it a thing like cars want to be able to drive, don't want to look out for people? I mean, I'm aware of some of the issues and things. And also last week there was this discussion about, everyone was talking about they don't want to be on Facebook, because, well, just in general, that's true. But but I think, I assume this, when you're out like last night and you see people and you're walking down your street and you're interacting and you're walking downtown, you're walking around on your bike, like you're meeting people, you're seeing people, and maybe after 20 years I won't want to see people, I want to hide in my house, or whatever, and that's everyone's right. I'm just wondering if there's maybe some kind of balance, and it gets you to meet and interact and learn about people, and you're not hidden inside the car and, back and stuff like that. So if you could, whoever wants to talk about that. I know you were, actually, I think last week you were like or last time you were like a little about walkability. So I'd like to hear your, and I think Councilman Diana, right? I'm so sorry. Diana was a little about that too. So I was just wondering if you could talk about that later. Thanks.
Thanks, Anthony. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Anybody else? Courtesy of the floor. Going once, going twice.
Motion to close, courtesy of the floor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Comments from the board?
I have a couple things. So I'll talk about walkability. I walk every day through my neighborhood and as much as I can down into town, bringing my dog down and through. So, there's some areas that lend themselves better to walkability. Unfortunately, not every area in Yorktown is walkable. You mentioned Councilman Diana, who lives off of Stony Street. I wouldn't walk on Stony Street, but if you go down to East Main Street, down below it, it's a very walkable area. So I think that if you heard any type of pushback, it's more, at least from us, some areas are walkable, some really aren't. Even my area, which is nice in a walkability, sometimes you're taking your life in your hands, the way some people drive, and it's unfortunate. Some people just, drive, they speed down residential streets, they don't stop at stop signs. Even today, I was driving through town, I was at the firehouse. car went, I went to go. The car right behind him just kept going right through. And it's a three-way stop, and everyone's supposed to, wait your turn. But, unfortunately, not everyone drives respectfully. And, and I have gotten pushback from people in the audience who say, well, Yorktown can never be walkable. It's not true. Especially our downtown area here, and, the plans to hopefully redevelop some of our defunct properties will help as we look at that through our planning department and through our town planner. So to keep walking, it's a great thing, and sometimes you may have to drive to the walking spot, which I know a few people that do that, but there are definitely some walkable neighborhoods.
Would you mind if I just piggyback on that? Sure. I think that my comment about walkability was that Yorktown doesn't need to be a walkable town to be a great town. I think that we can create a community that both reaches out to our neighbors and develops our commercial business without only having roads. However, I'm grateful that my neighborhood is it's kind of in your backyard. We do walk a lot, and I'm also a big connector, and I want to talk to my neighbors, or I want to check in on some of my neighbors who need to be checked in on, and it's important to me. But I do love that you're bringing this up, because I have to walk in the middle of the road, so that if my children are on their bicycles or whatnot and a car's coming, they have enough time to see me. And my little guy actually was like, well, then you might get hit by a car, Mom. And I'm like, yeah. So I understand that we too need to remember that we're driving within our own town, and there's a lot of children, and we stand for, neighborhoods and neighbors and children. So we have to be a little bit more mindful, but I do want to support what Councilman Ed Lackerman's saying. We do have some roads that I see are super kid-friendly, and there are some blocks where I drive my car and then walk from a friend's house to certain places, because getting there means I either have to go on Granite Springs or something, and I don't feel safe enough to walk my children there. So I do think that there are some walkable or not. But again, I think that Yorktown has the ability and the perseverance, if we put our mind to it, to being, and it is, an amazing town, and just developing it off those routes, whether it's got if it's completely walkable or not, or maybe finding the balance of being able to be both of those.
And I just had two other comments. One, Heidi with the geese, it's actually part of their egg-laying season too, which is the uptick in aggressiveness. I actually noticed yesterday about 35 geese on the track when I was driving by, and no one was feeding them. They are just looking for food. They're laying their eggs. They're protecting them. So they like grassy, swampy areas for that. So unfortunately, that is there. You're right, though. Don't feed them, and then you have to be even more cautious about other wildlife such as fox, coyotes, the other things that we have through the town. And then the last thing, Mr. Kopstein, you're absolutely right. I will say that there are times I'm guilty of saying that, hey, I think this is a great idea. But please note that, even thinking it's a great idea, I do sit and listen to that input. And a matter of fact, I know that at times you'll come up to me and say, hey, that was a good idea, and you make some excellent points. I always know that every one of the people in the audience look out a much different window than I look out of. You see things differently. And, I could speak for myself, but I'm sure our other board members as well. Those comments are invaluable, and they help. And, and sometimes there's even a conflict in some of the things where you hear someone say, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then something's happening close to them. It's like, well, now I don't want it because it's near me. And so we hear it. Sometimes it's confusing. I definitely, always love the advice that I get and the views of the people that come up. So I thank you for that, but please rest assured that I know I'm guilty at times, like, hey, I think that's fantastic, but it no way is, the concept the final plan. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that everyone, hears a concept and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this concept is going to change everything. It's like, well, wait, it's a concept. It'll go through a process. it'll be fine tuned, and then we vote on what the end results are. So that's it for me.
Councilman Esposito, Councilman Diana, anything you want to add?
Sure, Tommy, would you like to go, or would you?
No, go ahead, and then I'll go after you.
So for me, the concept of walkability is everything everybody was talking about. Of course, you want to be able to walk in our neighborhoods. I remember there's a few roads that are just that really could use sidewalks. But I go beyond just walking the walkability in your neighborhood. I mean, I live in the Crown Heights area. There aren't any sidewalks, and we walk around constantly in the street, and it's very scenic. It's just Yorktown is just a beautiful place to live, and I'm proud to be here. But the concept of walkability extends to me more into, a downtown kind of area. And I think when I speak about walkability, I am primarily commenting on something like that, like our Commerce Street area and our town centers. And that's it. I mean, and of course, not every area is going to be walkable, and not every area is not going to be walkable. And the beauty of Yorktown is we have both. We can have both. We could improve both. And I think this town board is definitely in line with that. As far as making comments about liking the project, I'm in line with. I always keep an open mind. Try to keep an open mind with everything. And I may or may not have. I don't know. Say this project I like it. I don't like it. That doesn't mean it's the final decision. Especially as Councilman Lachman pointed out so eloquently, these things come in, they're just concepts. And when you roll up your sleeves and you get into the nitty gritty, that's when you get into the finite details. And you listen to public comment, of course, and you take that very seriously. But the devil's in the details. So a concept might come out and say, hey, this is going to be great, or hey, it might not be so great. And then when you get into the details, you see that there's improvements to be made. There's comments that have to be addressed and implemented, if so. All of these things, and I know based on my conversations with the board, since I got on the board, that we all take everybody's comments very seriously and really consider it. So if in the future I say I like something or I don't like something, it's not my final answer. So thank you.
Okay. With regard to walkability, we must go right down the same path. Mine is a matter of safety. I've been a police officer for 25 years, and noticing the way, I'm just going to use the Commerce Street area, the way traffic transgresses in that particular street. Yes, you might go to Starbucks, or you might go across the street to the Chase Bank or the like. But most people, and what I've noticed is, yes, they can walk. They can walk across and go down into the Yorktown Green or the Underhill Plaza or wherever. But for most, they'll leave their car once they get their Starbucks coffee. Then they'll drive to the Yorktown Green. Then they'll drive to, I don't know, the Triangle Shopping Center. And I think it's basically for safety measures. It's not that they can't walk, but they don't. This isn't like a Bedford Village. You can walk it. It's fairly safe. You have to really watch out for the traffic, and with all the electronics that are around today and the big screens that are in cars that people are looking at rather than looking at the roads and typing on their telephones even though they shouldn't be, it's walker beware, I guess would be the easiest way to say it. But you can walk in town. You can walk on East Main Street in Trumbo, and a couple other places. And to Ed's point, you wouldn't want to walk on Stony Street or Strawberry Road. It's kind of like walking on the Autobahn. So you got to be real careful. In regard to the fluoride project, is Dan in the audience? I can't see if he's here or not.
No, but I have an update on that, Tommy. It's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. And then, Jay, point taken. Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay. I also appreciate Mr. Kopstein's reminders. Well put and well taken as well. So, Susan, the fluoride project continues very much in the same position it was the last time you asked for an update and received one. You have a constant battle between the contractor and the subcontractor over materials that is now falling into a legal matter. That's where we stand today. Not much further, if at all, from 2 weeks ago, but something that we're still trying to work through, and it's a very frustrating process and a very frustrating project. I'm going to skip ARPA and go to garbage contract first. The garbage contract, we are putting out another bid. As expected, the contract that we opened was quite the hike. And I think it's incumbent upon us as town board members to look at every possible avenue to look for savings. And so we've tweaked the contract or the bid proposal to see if we can get alternative bids in return and what that cost savings would be. So it's significant enough that we have to take this approach. The bid we received is quite the hike, and we somewhat anticipated it. We kind of expected it based off of what we saw up in Carmel, who went through this last year. But we didn't expect it to be as high as it was. So we have to take, I'm not going to go into that right now. We have to take evasive measures to see if we can find cost savings in other places. And so we're going to go through the contract line by line, which we've done with our refuse and recycling foreman, and see if we can find other ways to save some dollars, taxpayer dollars, for the garbage. That brings me to ARPA. We did have, I thought, a very sound plan to move forward with ARPA, but based on the garbage contract, we're now re-exploring all of our options, every single one, including possibly in-housing garbage. So before we start spending ARPA dollars, we're going to explore every possibility that we can to save the taxpayers as much money as we can to mitigate the financial impact that it may cause. Considering the economic climate that we're in right now, I think that's incumbent upon us. Everyone's struggling. Everyone's hurting. To sit there and just say raise taxes, whatever, deal with it, isn't a good enough answer for me. And I'm not going to rest until we know that we've turned over every rock and every nook and cranny in every possible scenario to know that we protected our local taxpayers. So that's the process that we're in right now. We're in a very thankfully strong position because of the financial health of the town, but things are definitely in a position where we need to look at every possible scenario. As for the FOIL, I don't know if you want to speak on that, Madam Clerk.
If I was to speak on it, I'd prefer to have a closed session with the board on it first, since I would have to talk about particular people on it.
Okay.
And then you can decide what to do after that.
Okay, so we can have that conversation in closed. Thank you, Heidi, for the warning on the geese. Did you call? Did you call Parks and? So as a reminder, Heidi, if you can call Parks and Rec, I'm sure they can get you a sign reminding people not to feed the geese. And Anthony, again, on the walkability, I think the board is in line collectively. I grew up in this town. There are definitely areas. I remember walking to the mall. There are definitely areas that you can walk. There are areas that you shouldn't walk. But I think that, we look at, and working with our planning department, a complete streets concept is very important for the vitality of our hamlets, our business hamlets. And, one of the things about Yorktown people forget is how large it actually is. You have multiple hamlets, Mohegan Lake, Heights, Osceola, Shrub Oak. I love walking down East Main in Shrub Oak. That's probably, to me, I say it all the time. I say it, I think, every fall and every spring. It should be in the movies. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And so I really enjoy that portion of town. That portion of town, though, is very different than walking down here in the Heights Hamlet, which is also very different than walking up Mohegan Lake. So the way that the town's been constructed over generations poses some obstacles for us. But I think if you look at it and you start in the business hamlets and you work your way out, that's, I think, the approach that we need to take. And so I look at things like Downing Drive which would be a great place for us to have a streetscape project. I look at Veterans Road, another great place here in the Heights for a streetscape project. And a lot of these things have been identified in the comprehensive plan, which hopefully we can update in the next year or so. But those are all things that the town had set out goals to do, and for whatever reason, money, politics, whatever, was never able to accomplish it. But those wheels are still moving in those directions. So, you can find the comprehensive plan right online, so I encourage you to take a look at that. And I also remind you, I gave you my business card to email me, so I can refer your particular constituent matter to the Traffic and Safety Board. So with that is the update, and we'll take up the clerk's matter at maybe our next town board meeting. Okay, so we will go to... We've got public hearings. We've got a decision for the proposed local law to allow members of public bodies of the town of Yorktown to participate in meetings via video conference. We had a public hearing on this. It was closed. We did receive comment, which we reviewed. So this is simply a decision for the town board. Any other comment from the town board before we take it to a vote? No. Tom and Serge, you good? Do you have any questions or comments on it before we go to a vote?
Yeah, I go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
You go, Pop.
All right, yeah. Just for such instances like tonight, Sergio is able to attend, and I'm still able to attend, not knowing if I have COVID or not, but I didn't want to take the chance. And Sergio's on vacation, and we're still here. So, I think it's important that we do have this to allow us to continue to have the even flow at town board meetings.
Any other comments? Serge?
I reviewed the law. I had to run out here on an emergency I had to take care of something, and now that I'm out here, my family's here. So it worked out, and I think you do have to have these contingencies. I did go through the law thoroughly, and I don't see any repercussions from it. We do want to keep the town moving forward. This law will allow us to keep doing that. What happens if we have another spike with COVID somewhere down the line? This law will allow us to continue the town board meetings. I think it's all positive stuff.
Okay. Anyone else?
I don't have any comments.
So we'll make a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you need a roll call on that, or are you good?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. Motion is carried and law is adopted. We'll go to public hearing. We have a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 300 in zoning, Article 7, entitled Permitted Special Uses by adding a new section 300-83 entitled Boutique Hotel. The clerk is holding up the notice. I welcome Michael Grace to the podium. John Taggart, our Director of Planning, could not be here tonight. But as a reminder, this is to establish a special use permit. We do have a special use permit process under the overlay district for a boutique hotel. We do have several comments that were received, as you can see up here, from Abaca. They reviewed it at their June 7th meeting. They have no objections. Conservation Board did not found no negative environmental impacts to amending the law in this way. The Zoning Board had a few questions regarding and I believe, Mr. Grace, I raised these to you the last time you were here, regarding the definition of luxury, as well as, and it's a similar one that I think the Planning Board had to clarify to ensure that there's no cooking facilities in the individual rooms.
These are not efficiency units; they're just rooms.
Right. So those are the two comments from Zoning and Planning. County said it was of local matter, and DEP said just make sure that we have adequate capacity on the wastewater treatment facility. As well as ensuring that there's an assessment of potential adverse impacts from any new impervious surfaces and stormwater runoff, which would be all part of your site plan approval process.
They shouldn't mistake the adoption of the regulations with an actual...
Right, it's not a site plan approval, I know. So, but this is just, again, for the adoption of a special use permit process that the applicant can then apply for, and through the Planning Board in order to be able to move forward with the project if it deems.
Yeah, I just a couple of quick comments. You summed it up very quickly. Interesting. Mr. Kopstein kind of mentioned it in his comments. I just want to mention as a former supervisor, it's about when applicants do come before the town. I think this should be said that a part of it is that when people do come before the town with projects, they are looking to invest a lot of money in professional time, with professionals and professional services and time and plans, and it's very expensive. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars go into any project to develop it or to actually bring an idea forward. And then this one's no exception. I think last time we showed you the book that,
right.
So the thing is that when an applicant, there's nothing untoward about the town board expressing their either like or dislike of a potential project. That's what you're there for. You're the people that we ask to provide the vision for the town. And when an applicant comes before you, we want your feedback in order to give us direction into where to go. And so positive feedback is very important to encourage it. Doesn't mean that the project's approved. It means that you're expressing your vision of the town, which is so important, especially coming from an elected official. So I take exception, Jay, there is a reason for that. It's not to prejudge. They're not judges. They're not prejudging a project. They're expressing, so that's very important. As to also, and it's interesting, we had the idea of walkability, and I think this gentleman's point is that obviously there are Gomer Street, Granite Springs Road are not walkable roads. Right. But when we talk about walkability, we're really talking about developing our downtown areas to become community centers. And I was a big advocate when I was this town supervisor. I still have the hankering to see that highway garage disappear and the revitalization of our downtown area. But this is apropos because this is a project that kind of starts the ball rolling in that direction. There was some wisdom when you adopted the overlay districts to include this use. And I think that included the idea of having a vision where Yorktown actually becomes a community. And I guess in past civilizations, there was always a community center, a totem pole, so to speak, where people met and talked about the issues of the day. And back then, who knows what they were? Ours are a little more vocal at this point, but we want that sense of community where, despite our disagreements, we are a community. And part of that is creating that downtown, that walkable area, the center where we can all congregate, meet, recreate, and have a feeling of community. This is this type of use, and I commend you in having the vision to put this type of use in your overlay district. The only oversight was there weren't area and bulk parameters for that. So this law kind of fills in that gap. It doesn't approve a project. The project still has to go through approval processes if it even goes to the next step.
Right.
We do appreciate the fact that there was some enthusiasm for it, and it was expressed. And I think that's the important thing. It's not, and again, it's supplying that vision, which is what we ask you to do as board members, and we appreciate that. So I don't know if you have any questions about the particulars of the law, but they're pretty straightforward. The only other issue is about, there's a difference between rooms and efficiency rooms. Mm-hmm. These not an efficiency, so every time you add a kitchen, that would be a whole different concept. That's not what this allows, not what it entails, and it's not what's been proposed. And again, I stress that this is only providing the framework for which an application can be made, and that application is going to go through a whole approval process. But I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions, including anybody from the public that have any questions.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Grace. I think it's. I just want to reemphasize one of the things that Mr. Grace said, which is, again, this is not an approval for the actual project. There is a whole nother process coming down the road should the applicant continue to pursue this particular project. So this is simply for the special use permit. Again, as Mr. Grace pointed out, the bones of which were included in the overlay district, but just not the specifics. So with that, I will open it up for a public hearing and welcome our first speaker.
Jay Kopstein. As I said earlier, I like the concept. We need the hotel. I think we have to ask Mr. Rodriguez if we have to define the word boutique. I don't know. I know what I think it means. Should it be defined in the law? in my earlier comment, I didn't say the board couldn't ask questions and the board couldn't express a liking. What I said was the members of the board before a public hearing should not express an approval as to, I like that project, let's go forward it, which was said for a prior project, without even listening to anybody from the audience. That's what I was specifically referring to. And again, I like this project. I like what Mr. Arena did. I personally, I'm not a board member. I think we should go for it. But again, it's a personal opinion. I'm not representing anybody but me.
Understood. And as for the law itself that we're deliberating here, though, your comment is if we need to define boutique in the law.
In relation to Jay's comment on what is the boutique, that was spelled out in one of the person's a comment that you posted up on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Just a reminder, if you can just say your name for the record when you're coming up to the podium.
Good evening again, Susan Siegel. Okay. My comments tonight are just on this legislation for the special permit.
Correct.
I am not taking any position for or against
Understood.
the hotel. Okay. The law that is being proposed is basically 1.5 pages. It's very, very brief. Okay. And it only applies to boutique hotels, and the boutique hotels can only exist in the Yorktown Heights overlay district, in no other part of Yorktown. But as we've been discussing, the implication is that this is just for the Hotel Gardena that's been proposed by Mr. Grace's client, and it's been talked about for quite some time. But actually, when you come to think of it, Yorktown's going to have a second potential boutique hotel, and that's what is being proposed at the Underhill Farm Plan, a restaurant and 8 rooms. They're calling it a regional inn. Let's talk definitions. Boutique hotel, the Hotel Gardena, is 16 rooms and a bar and grill up on the roof. Soundview is planning a restaurant and 8 rooms. We're talking the same thing. So when you're thinking about you're passing this legislation, I'm saying expand your mind. We're talking beyond one hotel. All right. And some of you may remember that we've always talked about a hotel on the vacant land to the east of Barger Street. And did you hear that, Tom?
She said it right,
Okay.
Tommy. Barger.
All right, I've learned from
You
you.
did. I'm proud of you, Susan.
Okay, Barger Street and going off east to the Taconic behind the new Coco
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
That has always been talked about by
Always.
a hotel. But there is a definition of hotel in our current zoning code, but it is not what is being proposed at Gardena, and that's why you need something different.
Correct.
Okay. So we can skip that. Okay. Jay talked about the need for a definition of boutique hotel. There is one in the law, okay? And it specifically defines what is a boutique hotel, but there are some problems with that definition. We've always talked, again, because this special permit provision was written with Gardena in mind, I think that was always being proposed for 16 units. That never changed, 16 residential units. The law says up to 25 units. So where did they pick out 25? If you think about the law is only applicable for Yorktown Heights, where else in the Yorktown Heights hamlet, in the overlay district, and where else could you possibly have something that would be 25 units in the Yorktown Heights overlay district? Just look at that map, and other than what's being proposed for the corner of Commerce Street and Veterans Road, and also the mansion at the Soundview site, where else? So why do you need something 25? That's the question. All right. But also, boutique hotel was always sold to us as being small. Journal News had an article, a very interesting article recently. I think it was June 22nd, and they talked about the growing number of boutique hotels in the Hudson Valley. They gave several examples. They ranged in size from 16 units to 110, and they're all boutique hotels. So boutique does not necessarily mean small. So you might want to consider, again, your number. And again, we're only talking Yorktown Heights. If somebody wants to build a boutique hotel, let's say on that Barger Street property, you could always amend the law and put that, and that was proposed for the Shrub Oak Overlay District, and you could have something that applies there, and you could have it for 25, 30, whatever would be appropriate for that site, because that's a much larger site than what we're talking about in the overlay law. Also, the definition of luxury. What does luxury mean? If I asked the five of you what it means, I'm sure there'd be all different descriptions. Is it the size of the room? I've stayed in the equivalent of Motel 6 and Marriott's and Holiday Inns and lots of different hotels, okay? And they all have different size rooms. What's luxury? To me, luxury means a little bit larger, but we don't know what the size of these hotels are. Does luxury mean the thickness of the comforter on the bed? Does it mean the thickness of the carpet? Okay. Does it mean marble in the bathroom? What does luxury mean? Because luxury is a word in your definition, and that has a meaning. Okay. There's also the definition says an enhanced services. Enhanced services. What does that mean? And that gets me to my next point, which in the law is B4, which says customary accessory services, facilities. And it talks about swimming pools, fitness rooms, business lounge, and some retail. Again, what we're talking about are two potential boutique hotels in Yorktown Heights overlay. Do they have rooms for swimming pools, for fitness rooms, for business lounges? What are we talking about here? What kind of accessory facilities? So if we're talking about something small, which is where I think we started with boutique hotel in Yorktown Heights, you might want to look at that section B4 about the accessory facilities. All right? Parking, which is B5 in the list. And by the way, when I'm finished with my comments, I've summarized some of these on a sheet to give you because I think what I'm going to end up saying is this needs more homework, just like the farm legislation. That sounded good right away, but once you got into it, it really had more questions. The parking. Parking has always been a key issue with the Hotel Gardena from day one, so we know about that. The proposal is for 1.1 parking space per room and 1 parking space for every 600 square feet of food service or for the lounge area. Okay. Question, does the 1.1 space per room, what about staff? Is there any accommodation for staff? And there's been no discussion how many staffs, if all 16 rooms are full and we're servicing the bar and grill, what kind of staff is needed? But the more important thing is the amount of parking spaces needed for the roof-type grill. If you look at our current zoning code, food establishments need 1 parking space for every 50 square feet of patron area and 1 space for every 100 square feet of preparation area. That's in section 300-182. That came up even recently when the planning board was talking about changes to Wendy's at the Staples Plaza, and those are the numbers. In this code, it's talking about 1 space for every 600 square feet. All right? We're talking about 1 space for every 50 square feet of patron in our code for a food service outfit. And here you're talking 1 space for 600 square feet of patron. I think there's a disconnect there, especially given the fact that we already know there's a parking issue. So that needs to be looked at a lot more carefully. Also, there's an issue of, we might have valet parking, which is an option. If you have valet parking in Yorktown, you need a permit for it, and that's section 369. So you might have to work that out together. I don't know that anybody looked at that. Section B6 in the law, you can tell, reading law 1.5 pages can raise a hell of a lot of questions, okay? It says that why do you need the section if you have in section B3 that allows dining rooms and lounges for the public, in other words, non-guests? Why do you need section B6 that has a separate section for food service and restaurant? Isn't it redundant? Okay. Also, that section says that these food service facilities can be used for conferences, banquets, parties, restaurants. What are we talking about here? All right, is this going to be a restaurant, or is this going to be a hotel? Is there primary use and an accessory use? And maybe there should be some relationship in terms of square footage or percentage of space. It's mostly supposed to be a hotel, not a restaurant, bar, or grill. That's another thing that you should think about. Section C, it says boutique hotels should only be permitted as defined in this chapter. Well, why does it have to state that? Because the whole purpose of the special permit is to set up a boutique hotel. So I think that has to be written just to say that the special permit will be granted by the planning board, which is what you want. There are several issues that are not included that I think you might want to include. If you're going to have restaurants and a restaurant in this boutique hotel, and the restaurant may be in a mixed-use development like Soundview, which is close to residential units, what about standards for noise, lighting, odor, traffic, hours of operation? Have you considered that? Okay. To what extent can the bulk regulations like side yard, rear yard be waived? That's not clear. There's a general statement in 300-254 of the overlay law that says you can waive regulations up to 60%. Will that apply for the boutique hotels? Okay. Should there be a minimum lot size? Okay. What about building coverage? There's an FAR in the overlay law, but does that only apply to residential units? Does it apply to commercial properties? That's not clear. Okay. How does the special permit relate to other sections in the overlay law? Section 300-255, Section B2 of the overlay law, says you allow boutique hotels by special permit as set forth in Section 352. If you go read 352, that relates to special permits for hotels, which don't apply in this case, and which sends you to parking requirements, which don't relate to this. So you're going to have to amend the overlay law to do this. With the overlay law in litigation, is now the time to amend the overlay law? I don't know. Also, Section 368 of the zoning code allows single-family dwelling units built before January 1930 to be converted to hotels or multifamily. How would that would obviously apply to the Soundview mansion. How would that apply to this? Is it a boutique hotel, or is it going to be one of these conversions from 1930? How can that work out? I think you get the point that while this was well intended, there are lots more questions that I think you need to consider. So I leave that with you, and I leave you a summary of just some of these issues.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Other people to speak for public hearing. Just come up and say your name for the record.
Howard Frank.
Hello, Mr. Frank.
62-year resident of Yorktown, and I want to thank Mrs. Siegel. I'm sure you don't want me to speak on all those items, but to have all these customary accessory swimming pool rooms, business lounge, and no more than 350 square feet, I would love to see at least a pencil drawing that an architect came up that this will fit into it. There was nothing. I know there was a catalog passed around. I never seen it, but anyway, it's in my opinion, doesn't fit the corner across the way from the cultural center. It needs a adequate piece of property, but you're already given an exception on parking without even seeing any an architect's basic drawing. Usually you come in with a proposal.
They actually have, Mr. Franks.
Well, it wasn't really given to the press. I'm sure the press would have put it on paper. But anyway, let me go back to the little history. I'll take it back. I don't know where you were in 1965, 70.
I don't know
it was
where
the
I was either.
Yorktown Motor Lodge. Had a nice restaurant.
It was a wish.
It was where Lowe's is today. Had 40 rooms. Had a beautiful restaurant and bar. In the 70s, I had my son's bar mitzvah and my daughter's bar mitzvah there. And it was really run very well. What happened to those 40 rooms? The county came along, said, well, let's put a few homeless people in there, and they can stay. We'll pay you Hilton room rates. So they filled up that hotel, and for a few years it went down. There was fires, and it wound up being condemned because of the sewer system and the overuse of this hotel. So there's an example of a 40-room motel with an excellent location right off the Taconic that couldn't stay in business because the people were afraid to go there in the 70s and the 80s. So if you're going to have a hotel, it has to have adequate parking and where you're going to have security. And if you look at any hotel room, the flooring alone, you need a separate utility room, you need a separate cleaning room for janitorial services, and I would love to see where they're going to put the dumpster for, and even mattress storage. So to run a hotel, you need a lot of auxiliary floor items. Doesn't say anything about laundry. Are they going to do the laundry, the linen there, send it out? You need a linen room, just basically. So I don't want to get into all those nitty-gritty, but I would love to nitpick that floss and just to see if they have a separate heat pump for each room, or they're going to have is there a boiler room access there? That area, I believe, is real watery property. So I know Mitchell's hardware store, basement was always underwater, and there's no other basements in that area that you can even put a strong foundation in to hold up a big building like that. So you may want to do some test borings before you even put a shovel in the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank.
Frank.
Other comments on the special use permit law? Just on the special use permit law? Any other comments? Going once, going twice. Mr. Grace, come on back.
Yeah, how you doing? First of all, I'm always proud to know that brevity is always a sign of genius. So, and you page and a half. If I can say it in a page and a half, I say it in a page and a half. Quite frankly, it's completely overthinking this thing. Just idea of luxury, I have to define it. Obviously, you can't enforce luxury, but it's to set the tone of what the intent of the law is supposed to be and the project's supposed to be. You don't want to put in that you want something. The intent is to create something that is. I don't know. Is it different gradations of it? Flea bag, middle flea bag,
right? Flop house, flea bag, right? Yes.
But luxury is just to set the tone of it. As far as parking is concerned, this was one of my peeves when I was even supervisor. I think when we got in, one of the first things we did was we changed the parking requirements in commercial districts, which were minimum required of 4.5 to 4, because what you were doing is you're getting seas of asphalt and no buildings. So you were reducing your ratables. You created a whole downtown area that has got more asphalt than it has commercial ratables. And I think if you do a little flyover of the Yorktown Heights area or the places where you decided to do these overlay districts, that's one of the issues that you had to is glaring. There's nothing but your open space is asphalt open space in your hamlet areas. And that does not produce either income, it doesn't produce an atmosphere, it doesn't produce walkability, it produces what you basically have is a dead spot in a county which should be vibrant across the board. So if you don't make the bold moves of creating the framework to have vibrant projects, you will get what you have at this point, which is basically.
If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
As far as bringing in Soundview into it, I think that one of the things that they have to understand, yes, Soundview as a structure that was built prior to 1935 or whatever it is, can be turned into a multifamily dwelling that is done as a matter of right. I think that some of the people that are in opposition to Soundview are a little short-sighted in the sense that we want listen, I invested a lot of money in this town in doing a preservation and a renovation of a building that was falling down around itself, and that was slated to have a car wash put up there across from the town hall. That's what was going in there, a car wash. We bought it. We spent a lot of money, a lot of time in trying to be
preservationist.
But yeah, paying homage to the history. We spent a lot of money on just materials to do it, to the authentic, to keep it authentic as to the time period of when it was created. And the same thing is with the Soundview building. It needs millions and millions of dollars of renovation and long-term preservation, and the history of the long-term preservation of that site is going to require some huge investment that has to be given a return. And again, so I don't think that's
Either
an
that
issue.
Or it becomes the next Bernstein house.
Right. It'll go fallow and it'll become down, and then you will have lost the history. As far as the hours of operation, it's a hotel, so I guess you can guess what it's going to be. So the thing is, you can't. It really is. It's like you nitpick this thing to death.
Mr. Grace, we're actually just looking at setting up the law to allow it. I think that a lot of the comments were the actual plan for the hotel, and I think that's something that will be looked at to see what happens or not, and that's up to the applicant to make the investment or not.
Right, and it's funny. It's like Susan mentions the word disconnect, and the disconnect with the town code is it's somewhat accurate, Susan. Because it should be a disconnect from the town code. The town code has been the anchor on this town for the longest time. That's keeping you. We went through periods of development in this town, and some of them were god awful, which was like the '70s. And when you did urban renewal, it was destroyed what was beautiful downtown Yorktown. Took down all the old buildings, like my building, that could have been preserved. And maybe there was that was the vision then, because that was the modernist or cubist idea of so
what it should be. Yeah,
there's a lot of ugly remnants of that all around, and we're trying. And I'm not trying to be
argumentative.
Yeah, but the idea is that I think, guys, if we constantly overthink these things, you end up being stymied. You always, the town board, if it comes down to something in the future where you need to tweak something, it's a matter of 2 weeks to notice a hearing and, create the statutory changes and enact the law. We want to move this ahead. I think what you're going to see that the developer of this property has never done anything small. It's always been it's been first rate. Even his pamphlet, Mr. Frank, you want to take a look at it? You can absolutely take a look at it. Everything is done to the. It's absolutely incredible amount of workmanship that this guy does. Now you know what? I don't think it's an incredibly bold move for the town board to adopt this ordinance and see this thing move forward. And I think that you have to have some courage of your conviction, of your vision for what it is for the town. And I think you can make a big statement in that regard by adopting the law as written, and if need be, tweaking it in the long run. But thank you, Susan. You're very thorough. You always have been. You've always been never mind. But but the disconnect it's true. It is a disconnect, and a disconnect it should be that disconnect between what we're proposing and what the old law is what needs to occur. And
Mr. Grace, can you just answer the boutique question? Why the 25 units?
There's nothing magical about it. It's just that
you have that answer.
Good.
Okay, Mr. Joe Arena, site design.
Just to hello everyone.
How are you,
Hi.
Joe?
Arena, principal site design consultants, and I exchange a lot of research and ideas with this, with John Tegeter and with Mike and with Michael on the creation of this, and that seems that 25 number. When you look at ordinance across the country, that pops up a lot. So I think that's
Industry
to that.
standard. Okay.
Right? So that, and those numbers went anywhere from 25 to 150 for a boutique hotel.
So there are
I'm-
boutique.
I'm-
I was a little surprised by
Yes.
the comment regarding the 100+ rooms that are
right,
boutique
no,
hotels.
but I've seen it, in
In
other
Europe,
parts of the country.
especially, actually,
Yeah.
a lot of the
So-
boutiques are.
I actually am.
100+.
Right.
Yeah, I actually was going to comment that I've seen, especially coming from Manhattan coming up, I've seen more boutique hotels that are in the hundreds.
Okay.
So I think
Well,
I think
capping
the
at
way
25.
the final tweaking of this ordinance,
Yeah.
it was done with an eye on this project, but I think it was done so that it became a template to be used
Moving forward.
in possibly in this hamlet and in other hamlets, so that the town doesn't have to rewrite it every time and rethink the whole thing.
Makes
So I
sense.
think that's why it was written that way. That's why there's specifics as to parking and number of units and whatever else may be, and whatever else may be anticipated, like a swimming pool. So maybe another site might be 5 acres. and
Is there a
we
swimming
can
pool?
have a swimming.
Is there a swimming pool in the design for the Gardena?
No.
No, there's
I just
not.
wanna make sure that we're
Yeah,
clear.
there's not enough room for that.
There's not,
I
no.
didn't think so, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget something.
We
But I appreciate the approach though, because you're taking a more macro approach, because there may be a boutique hotel
Right.
that comes out and that could have a swimming pool. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it could be a
Yes.
bigger size.
Right, so that's the point. It's now part of the town ordinance. It can be lifted from the Heights overlay and used somewhere else in town, if the town board so sees it. If they, for example, let's say there's a revitalization of Jefferson Valley. Maybe there's a place for it there, on the lake, near the lake, whatever. So it's done with an eye on this project, but it's not about this project. It's more about it becoming a template for that use.
On the parking side,
Right.
so how does the parking ratio? And I understand.
It does not work for the Gardena, but we have a different approach in mind, because there's a potential to borrow some parking from other sites.
Okay.
But also, the way we look at it is across the street you have the Cultural Community Center.
Yeah.
You have Veterans Road there. There's parking on both sides of it. There's parking in other areas. You've got the parking lot across from the Commerce Building, and if you can gain access to that, so that's where you have to plug in the walkable part of it.
Right.
Right. And it's not that far fetched that the rooftop area is going to be used more in the evening hours. Is going to be a destination in the evening hours, and there's going to be plenty of parking available on those different properties.
But
So-
back in the day, I think there was even a talk about like almost a lot for people to park in, done as a tiered lot behind the Catalina building.
Yeah. I'm talking about with John and Robin.
Yeah. So
tiered parking garage.
Tiered
back there.
parking garage, and that is municipal parking is one of the keys to walkability, and it is something that's
One of the things that Kisco has that we don't.
Right.
Like Kisco, you can park in the back there, and everything's turned inside out compared to Yorktown.
Right.
So,
and it offers a much better experience.
100% it does. Yeah.
So again, now we have to fit the project into the context of the ordinance, right? So that's up to us now to make that.
This allows the flexibility to do so.
Well, yeah, but we have to make our case for parking. We have to make our case
Right.
for everything, the number of rooms, so on and so forth. This is not approving the project.
No, we don't.
This is approving the ordinance that
Yep.
allows the project to move
exactly.
forward.
Right. The
And we all
ability.
agree.
I think you said that. That was the ability to present the project.
We all recognize that this is not approving a project whatsoever.
Right, and
At least the town board does. I
Yeah,
know that
and like the
there's
number,
there may be some misconceptions out there in the public, but the town board fully recognizes that this is not about the project itself. And I frankly appreciate the foresight of having the legislation written in a way that does not curtail it specifically to one project, but allows it to be picked up and placed in different parts of town. I think that's great.
Right. And, like take for the 1.1 parking spaces per, that factors in employees working at the hotel, right?
It does.
I mean, if you're going to use.
You're telling me it does.
Yeah, that's what I'm speculating. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I'm speculating that. Because why, if you were going there with your wife to use the hotel, would you take separate cars? No. Right? So that kind of makes sense that that's what it's for.
That's where the 1.1 comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say she may actually want to take
I don't know. I'm just, I'm not trying to point you out, but I'm just trying to.
No, I
make the point.
I understand.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yep,
It's like
I
the
do.
2.5 kids.
But this is why we have public hearings, to get feedback and different perspectives on things that are being proposed, which is that's the process. That's the process by which we do this. Tommy, Sergio, anything you guys want to? Any questions you might have? Any before Susan returns to the podium? Any questions you might have, or comments about what we heard so far that maybe Mr. Grace can answer for you?
Well, I think.
I'm good.
Tommy, you're good. Sergio?
I'm good.
Yeah, so I think, I definitely like the concept as well. And going back to the whole walkability question, which seems to be one of the themes that keeps recurring here, I think this potential law could lend itself to some kind of a revival of our downtown district. So I really don't have any further questions as far as the law goes. I'd like to see how the concept comes into play, which will be at a later date, and which for the record, will remain to be determined.
Joe, I appreciate you letting him know we put some thought into this.
Susan, you wanted to come back up?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted just a few comments.
Hold on, let me get another sheet of paper.
I know. I'm actually on my third. Actually, she gave us. Let's
We're
write
allowed
on
to
the
laugh, right?
The
We're allowed to
disconnect.
enjoy what we do.
I'd like to comment first on the disconnect. Yes, there are parts of our zoning code that probably are 60, 70 years old. No qualms, no questions about that. But the overlay law is, 1 year old? Okay. And there's a section in there that clearly is wrong. It was wrong at the time it was passed, and it's wrong now, and it does have to be changed to deal with the boutique hotel, because it says, and that's 352. All right? I mean, it says you can have boutique hotels, set forth by section 352. Well, have you ever read 52? Section 52 is a special permit for a hotel. And then it says, go look at section 153 to 155 for parking. And that parking deals with the planned interchange zone. So when they wrote that section in the interlay law, which isn't 50 years old or 60 years old, it's 1 year old.
That's why this is.
No, here.
Okay.
We're not having a debate.
So when you talk about disconnect, we're talking about cleaning up and making sure that sometimes when you write one new law, you have to go look at what's in the existing law, because it might conflict with what's in the existing law. And you have to look at that. And what I was saying was that when this was written, it wasn't looked at that. I just want to clarify the comments about the mansion at Soundview. Okay, it almost was talking as if that we're going to destroy that mansion and how much money was put into the rehab. We're not talking about that. The only point I was making was that when that is being proposed, and that's far from being approved at this point, but it is being proposed for a regional inn. Those are the terms that the developer has used, a regional inn, 8 rooms and a restaurant, which is very much the same as what is being proposed for Hotel Gardenia, 16 rooms and a bar grill. We're dealing with the same thing. And that's the only point I want to make. So when you're thinking about passing this law, you really have to think about 2 potential, issues, all right? The issue about we're writing something now that maybe could be used in the future. And I did mention that site up at Barger Street and Route 6, which has always been talked about for a hotel. But right now, you're writing a law just for the boutique hotel that can only be done in the Yorktown Heights Overlay District. So you're writing something for now where you're not going to have a swimming pool and you're not going to have a fitness center because you know which parcels you're dealing with, unless Triangle Shopping Center wants to come in with a boutique hotel, or Yorktown Green wants to redo its proposal and come out with, because those are much larger sites. But you could always tweak it later if somebody else comes in. Your board, the boards before you, Michael Grace's boards, my board, has always been tweaking laws when something new comes in. We just tweaked the for the old Toys R Us building.
Right.
You know, so if you take swimming pool out now, because nothing in the Yorktown Heights Overlay District could accommodate a boutique hotel with a swimming pool, and if you take that out because it's totally unnecessary now, if something comes in 2 years from now, 5 years from now, with a larger site with 25 rooms, that may want 35 rooms. You can always tweak it then, which you typically do to accommodate when something new comes in. Just the way you create new sections in your zoning code, and you tweak existing codes so that you can fit something else in. And the town has a long, long history. I could cite them. So those were some of the points. As far as the parking, I think, yes, there's no question that if Hotel Gardena goes through at its current size, it's going to need, the parking requirements are going to have to be waived, and they're going to need off-site parking. I think that was known from day one. And I'm not talking about that now. I'm just talking about you're writing a law, okay, that says how you establish the parking requirements. And to say that food establishments need one space for every 50 square feet of parking, of patron space on one side, and then say this other one, because we want this thing, we want a hotel, that should be one for every 600 thing. It's so outrageous. The gap is so outrageous. Put in your reasonable thing, and if your planning director says, because he said it at the planning board for Wendy's the other night, one space for every 50 square feet for patron space. Nobody's questioning that, which is different from the change that Mr. Grace and his board put through. That was a totally different issue. That had to deal with retail space. Here we're talking about restaurant space. So you should keep that in mind, and then whatever is required, because I don't know how much square feet will be used for that. I think there was the bar and grill and possibly like a breakfast little nook, in the lobby, if I remember. And then he has to go to the planning board with the site plan, whether it's going to be the Soundview House or Hotel Gardena. And then they say, okay, now will you waive my requirement because I have off-street parking? That's a planning board issue, to waive the requirement. But your law, which should be in general and not be written to suit the client, because that's what you're doing, because the client doesn't have space. He's writing this into the law to accommodate him, all right? And leave it up to the planning board. Have a reasonable parking space requirement that is comparable to what you require for other food establishments, and then let the applicant come before the planning board and waive it because there's adequate off-street parking or however else you're going to deal with it. That's the proper way to do it. Thank you.
Joe, can you just speak to that? Yes.
Jake Hopson again. First comment, legitimate. It's a hotel in a commercial area. It's a 24/7 operation. It's not a residential area. Who cares? A little bit in jest. Should we write a law that allows for parking for George Jetson's automobiles with 15 years from now? Maybe somebody will come in with a levitation car and want to park high.
It is actually George Jetson's birthday yesterday, so. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. If you look at the old Jetsons, he was born, I think, what did they say, August 1st, 2022 or something like that. Anyway.
Joe knew that, didn't you, Joe?
That's why I asked Joe to come back. Can you just speak about that square footage requirement on the parking?
Yeah, well,
just explain to me the thought process.
Well, if you're asking me in relation to the Gardenia, if you recall the floor plan, and I would have had it up, but if you recall the floor plan for the rooftop area,
yeah, it's
sparsely seated and tabled. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of open area up there, and the calculation came from that. It's not a restaurant, and it's more. For example, on the outside, I think on the side facing.
So since it's not a restaurant, would it be considered patronage area?
What's that?
Would it be considered patronage?
It's that's a good question. So it's like if you went to a lounge or a bar, is that considered a restaurant? And are people going to go there and sit for 2 hours and occupy a table? Or is this, something a little different? I mean, it's kind of how you look at it.
But which calculation do you use in that sense? If you were using...
I don't think the town code has something that specific.
Okay.
I think it just says restaurant, food service, whatever, this is what it is. And so we often run into this problem because the code lacks
Silent
here.
on it?
So, for example, for a pizzeria or a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that,
Yeah.
what number do you apply?
Right.
You're not going to apply 1 per 50 because you just you just don't. You're not going to have 4 people or 5 or 6 people sitting in a 50 square foot area. You're just not going to have that.
Right.
So if you recall the floor plan for the Gardena, it's open rooftop, and so you have a lot of stand up counter type area or bar stool type seating. And then you have a lot of open space, and you've got, I think there was.
No, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, so that may be where it came
the code, from. And Mr. Grace would probably know. The code is silent on these types of establishments.
Right. I think one of the things that has to be looked at is that even the code's parking requirements for restaurants are overly burdensome. So this is not a restaurant use, and the idea is that if the idea in the zoning is to control by area and bulk requirements, you control the use and the intensity of the use. So you really want the parking to be less rather than more, because it's supposed to be a boutique hotel for guests that are there with accessory to that. What you would have, so you're talking about maybe a continental breakfast, continental sex. It's not a restaurant. It's not intended to be a restaurant. So it's not, it's not fair to analogize this to a restaurant use. And the thing is, I also will just suggest that the day that parking becomes a problem in Yorktown will be a very good day. And so far it hasn't. You can do burnouts in pretty much all the parking lots any time of the day you want because they're all empty. So I think, again, I don't. I'm really asking you not to get this hung up on minutia and detail that doesn't really apply. I think you can push forward on it. It's going to be a whole process that's going to go ahead. I appreciate, I really do appreciate Susan's thoroughness in looking this thing through. She's always been that way. It's very nice to hear from this side of the table, right on that side of the table. But, it's again, and it clarifies certain things. The clarification is it's not a restaurant; it's a boutique hotel.
I appreciate that. Okay. Any other comments? Any other comments for the public hearing? Town board.
No, look, like I said before, we're looking at a law to enable an application to come in right now. That's really what this is doing, and giving some guidelines on what that should be. I agree with Susan that it tweaks, and we tweak things all the time, and that's, I guess, a beautiful thing about the town board, because every reenactment of the town board you can tweak what needs to be changed. That's, times change, laws change, code changes. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joe.
Regarding the tweak, like things like taking the pool out and whatnot, I think you have to look more towards the application of this other than the Gardena Hotel.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And if someone's coming in and they want to do an application and they see, well, pool is not allowed,
right?
Paddleball court is not, whatever it may be, lounge is not allowed,
right?
Then they're going to say, I'll just walk. I'm speaking from this side because I have people who come and they look at something
understand.
and then they're afraid of.
In the Gardena, was there a fitness component? I can't remember. No fitness component. No. Okay.
I got to tell you, the whole concept that there could potentially be a pool, but there's no pool in this particular hotel. I don't see a terrible issue with that. The pool is something that one would reasonably believe or expect a hotel to have at some point. Now, this hotel may not have the reasonable expectation. I mean, many hotels just happen to have pools. So I don't think including a potential pool or something to that effect is an unreasonable thing that's in the law that needs to be taken out. And then in the future, we have to go through the process of amending something that should have been there to begin with because for me, it's a reasonable expectation for the most part that a hotel will have something. So I think it has all the necessary components that you would reasonably expect a hotel to have. This one may or may not have it. Sounds like it doesn't. I don't see a problem leaving that in.
Tom?
Yeah, not for nothing. This is in its infancy also, and it is going to be tweaked along the line, and it's still got to go through planning and so on and so forth. So, not the law so much, but the particular hotel. So, let's let it run its course and let's see where it goes.
I think I'd like some time just to run through. We don't have Adam here or John Tegeter, so I'd like to run a couple of things that were expressed here tonight past them, just to see if we can just make sure that we're all on top of this as much as we can be. So I think I'd like us to just take this and not move on it tonight, not close it tonight, and let's come back after we talk to Adam and John one more time.
I think that's a prudent approach, but I just want to remind you to be mindful of the timetables on this. We'd like to get it moving.
I know.
Because it's a long process, even after this process is
Yes,
complete.
I know it is. Yeah, and I'm very cognizant of that, but I just want to make sure that we are as close to perfect as we can be.
I got no problem, and it's your job, and I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you for the comments, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Excuse me. Motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Tom, you good?
Yes. I had to click on the view.
Gotcha. All right. Let's go to resolutions. From the Finance Department, authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer. This is for the long-awaited cement relining project, $682,282. We're going to authorize the comptroller to also establish the capital project HM for the water meter replacement project, something else that we've been working diligently on. We will authorize the comptroller and Councilman Diana. I don't think you mentioned this in your remarks. We're going to authorize the
I figured we'd pass it first.
Okay, we'll authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for fireworks to be to be displayed at the last Lions concert of the season, the Military Appreciation Concert. Councilman Diana, comment on that?
Yeah, I'm so happy we could at least get it in for that. We did this once before. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Sergio. This was done through the Chamber of Commerce at that point because we couldn't have the ball drop because of either rain or inclement weather or something. So Garden State Fireworks was gracious enough to hold over, and we had them for the last concert of the concert series through the Chamber of Commerce, partnered with the Lions. This time we're partnering with the Lions, and we're putting on the fireworks for the last concert of the season. Unfortunately, due to staffing issues, believe it or not, not material issues, they couldn't get shooters to shoot them off for 4th of July, or we would have had them for 4th of July.
Right, exactly. So this is great, and you're still going to go through the fire advisory board, and we'll make sure that it's all done with the
Permitting, et cetera, et cetera.
proper review and permitting.
Yes.
Great.
The town follow its own rules, and I got to tell you, Tommy, they do a fantastic job, and they're great people to work with, very reputable.
Yep.
Top notch, great choice.
All right. We will also move forward here. We're going to authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer for the police department. This is to purchase a police vehicle and the associated equipment. Please note this is going to be reimbursed by the Yorktown Central School District for the elementary level school resource officer. We're excited about that. I think it's also important to point out that we've been we ordered a hybrid October 4th of last year, and we still haven't gotten it because the microchip production has delayed it so much that I believe we're going to get it by the end of August at this point. We're hoping. So we're hoping that these vehicles become much quicker than that because I know that the police department needs them. We will authorize the comptroller to process a budget transfer. This is for town board special projects to finally pave the pathway to Patriot Park. And thank you, Highway Superintendent Paganelli and our Director of Planning, John Tegeter, and Jim Moderano, our Parks and Rec Superintendent, for the help on that. From the Highway Department, we're going to award a bid for the streets and traffic signs for the Highway Department. From the John C. Hart Memorial Library, we're going to establish a petty cash account. This is directly related to the passport processing services that they'll be providing. We're going to authorize the clerk to advertise for plows and spreaders for the Highway Department that the Highway Superintendent Dave Paganelli spoke about last week, his mini bid. We'll also authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid for the asbestos remediation at 3302 Crampon Road for the building department. This is the house that caught on fire on Old Crampon Road that the fire department requested that we condemn because it kept reigniting, and then so we condemned it. They started taking it down, and then they found asbestos, and then Department of Labor got involved, and it's been a bureaucratic nightmare. So to Renee and the neighbors on Old Crampon Road, we apologize profusely for the delay and the bureaucratic nightmare that we've been managing, but we're finally at the point where at least we know that we can move it forward in this direction. You're welcome. Let's see. And she waited all this time just to hear that one resolution. We're going to authorize the town clerk to advertise a bid for the residential garbage and recyclable material collection and disposal for the refuse recycling department, which I spoke on earlier. We will also accept the monthly reports from the finance department, receiver of taxes, and the town clerk for July of 2022. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motions all carry. Thank you very much, everybody. And Renee, again, our apologies for the delay. Glad we were able to get that done for you. Yes, Tom?
And Matt, I think we're going to need to go back into close. There was a couple things that weren't I have a question on with regard to negotiation and bid opening and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right. So then we'll make a motion to go back into close, and we
So
will
moved.
adjourn from there. Give a second.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Yorktown. Thank you,
Good night,
everybody.
Yorktown.
Right on.